be trapping in public, struggling. I really came from nothing, going on the road.
Since the early 2010s, the world has been
17 with 17 bodies. K.I. the gang girl.
infatuated with the treacherous streets of Chicago. With drill music taking off at the start of the decade, artists like Chief Keef, Lil Durk, and G Herbo emerged, creating street bangers and birthing the newest hit genre in the gangster rap world. But sadly, drill has also spawned a subculture of crazy fans awaiting for the next body to drop, like some kind of twisted music-based reality show, with creators like DJ Academics reporting on the goings-on in Chicago's streets in his controversial series The War in Chirac, which, despite being marred in controversy, ultimately put many of Chicago's up-and-coming drill rappers truly on the map. But in Chicago's South Side, this was all real life. Countless families were being torn apart day by day by the senseless violence, and in the next 10 years, the gang war behind drill music would also claim the lives of many of the scene's biggest rap stars. And no gang war in Chicago has been publicized as much as the infamous deadly feud between O-Block and their rivals, Tukaville. Nowadays, these gangs are mostly known for their catalogue of drill bangers, but to fans of drill music, their dangerous members are more notorious for their activities in the streets and the bodies they may or may not have dropped. With many stories we've covered before telling the tragic tales of violence and murder on the streets of Chicago, but arguably one story in particular is possibly the most unique in all of Chicago drill history, and that's the story of Jakyra K.I. Barnes, aka the gang girl, who has been described by some as a teenage female gang assassin. Before I go any further into the story of K.I., I need to give you guys a very important content warning. This video will contain themes of violence, death, and no sweat. The real historic recycled drill music said, clearly available, and that these are the said, but you can't deny that these things were said. Doctrine of fair use, which means that I don't need anyone's permission to show you images, clips, or comments to prove these things actually happened. This video aims to educate the public on true cultural events that are socially significant, and I'm not using any more than is necessary to back up what I'm saying, and this video is really not a substitute for any of the things that I'm going to be talking about or showing you in this video. It's a completely unique piece of research with a unique purpose, and any efforts to censor my journalism using fake copyright claims or intimidation are unlawful and will be reported to the authorities. Now, because of the YouTube advertising, other Chicago street figures had been associated with several infamous hits, shooting at the ops and bragging about it all on Twitter for the whole world to see. But when assessing K.I.'s story in more detail, it's clear to see that due to her extreme circumstances and countless losses that she took on the way, there was almost no hope for K.I., leading her to an almost inevitable and violent end. Her story has gone on to be legendary in Chicago, spawning several news pieces about her unique life. There were rumours that she was the actual real-life version of the female hitwoman Snoop on the HBO fictional series The Wire, and she would even be the star of her very own A&E documentary after her passing.
Nah, cause I ain't gonna lie, right? K.I. chop on bro, but I don't know how old she is, so I can't even, you feel me? I can't even say too much. Bro.
Documentary which curiously starred one of the biggest stars of drill music for very suspicious reasons. Today, we're going to take a closer look at the crazy story of STL's female menace, K.I., and determine once and for all, was she really a female assassin with 17 bodies at age 17, or just a misunderstood and frustrated teenager who ended up becoming the poster child of Chicago gang violence?
Compare that reputation as a shy, timid girl with her reputation on the street, which was a shooter or a hitter or an assassin. She was known to her rivals as somebody who was willing to shoot first, ask questions later. It's all over the internet. In fact, on her own Twitter site, she called herself Taekwon Assassin. Taekwon was a friend of hers who was killed, and she vowed to avenge his death. The last time they had contact with her, they saw Jakyra in an alley near 63rd and King Drive, which is kind of the borderline between her gang and another rival gang. And they thought that it was really unusual for her to be there. She was really putting herself at risk. She could have gotten shot there. And so one of the officials got out of the car and talked to her and offered her help, and she politely refused and she walked away. 2 months later, she was dead.
Before we go any further, I just want to give you guys a quick update on the channel, as well as tell you about today's sponsor, NordVPN, or actually low SL case, which can protect all. Aka K.I. was born on January the 21st, 1997 in the south side of Chicago. Jakyra comes from a popular family in drill history, as many might know her half-brother, FBG Butter, often referred to as K.I.'s twin due to their almost identical looks. Now, Butter has gone on to become a media personality in his own right, as well as having been a rapper, with him in recent years going viral on many different platforms, creating unmissable moments where he retold classic stories from his past in the streets of Chicago, including one crazy story where he had allegedly beaten up infamous O-Block rapper King Von on the bus back in the day.
Bro, this nigga was talking about, like, proudly, like, this nigga was talking about spitting in niggas' butts and shit, like, savage life in prison, bro. Bro, in prison, them niggas, like, I'm talking about Cook County, them niggas, like, embody that shit. Like, them niggas, like, embody savage life, bro. Like, spitting in asses and beating a nigga ass, spitting his ass and shit like that, like.
Hey.
Well, what was the situation that happened between you and King Von on the school bus?
He got into it with one of the guys at school. I guess they was in that shooting dice or whatever. Folks just told him, like, shit, when wait till we get out of school, I'm gonna have my little homie scratch you out. So when I came on the bus, folks like, man, whoop him, buddy. I'm like, man, buddy, tweaking, but Broski said whoop you, so I had to whoop him.
K.I. also had another brother nicknamed G.I. or G.I. Joe, and another brother named P.T. from a different area called Tay-Town, all of whom were gang affiliated and deep in the streets, likely normalizing the criminal lifestyle in her household growing up. K.I., much like countless other children in Chicago, was exposed to the extreme violence within the city during her infancy. In fact, her father was actually murdered before she'd even made it to 12 months old. Jakyra shared an image of her father holding her as a baby, commenting, "I know I'd be better if you were in my life." A heartbreaking sentiment when considering the tragedies that would unfold in K.I.'s life in the following years. But following her father's death, K.I. managed to persevere and grow into a sweet and funny school graduate who was very popular and had a keen interest in music.
Her mom said she was a smart kid. She was kind of shy, even timid, some people said. I talked to people at the school who said it took a while for her to warm up to her classmates and to her teachers, but she had some initial discipline problems at the beginning and she got suspended. But after that, she was a good student, they said. So she graduated her 8th grade at Perspectives IIT Math and Science Academy.
But it was also around this age in her early teens where K.I. was dragged into the streets and the gangbanging lifestyle. The images from around that time give a clear depiction that Jakyra's whole life had changed due to her extreme change in her appearance, from a seemingly innocent school graduate to a gang-rapping delinquent. She was often seen throwing up gang signs and dissing rival sets that were the opposition to her area, 63rd and St. Lawrence. Like here, Jakyra can be seen throwing up the rakes, representing her membership of the Gangster Disciples, as well as dropping Ys or displaying a Y upside down to diss opposing hoods, such as TYMB, who were close to STL's enemies O-Block around the 2010s. This change in her lifestyle began to affect her education and family environment. After the 8th grade, Jakyra's school performance began to drop, with her regularly missing classes and taking issue with authority, even catching her first criminal case around this time for discharging a firearm. But thankfully, she was found not guilty after a witness who picked her out in a lineup curiously changed their story, likely due to pressures from other members of her STL gang.
In Science Academy, she went back there for her freshman year and things just did not work out. She had a really spotty attendance record, and the next thing you know, according to her mother, she was arrested for shooting a gun and wound up going into the juvenile justice system, and she essentially never really was a full-time student again.
K.I. clearly had picked up a fascination with guns and crime, which ultimately went on to become a pattern of behavior, judging by her gallery of mugshots online. According to Jakyra's mother, at around age 12, she started to hang out with a different crowd, and she began to notice a change in Jakyra from her attitude, appearance, and even the music she was interested in.
I want to say maybe at about age 12, I started seeing like a change, you know what I'm saying? Change in appearance, change in the group she was hanging with.
Specifically, she'd been hanging around with the Flyboy Gang, or FBG Collective, from STL or St. Lawrence Avenue, and she would later appear in music videos such as this one for the track Murder, being depicted in the video as a frontrunner for the gang, masked up and clutching a pistol. STL, which refers to the St. Lawrence Avenue, and have also been referred to as the St. Lawrence Boys, is a Gangster Disciple set located around 63rd and St. Lawrence Avenue, hence the nickname STL. This crew is only a short walk away from their mortal enemies, based in the infamous Parkway Gardens, nowadays referred to as O-Block, the famous housing complex and Black Disciple affiliated gang set that produce icons in the drill music scene like Chief Keef and King Von, and also being famous for their deadly feud with St. Lawrence. Now, STL is also known for its close alignment to the nearby Eberhard Avenue, which reps the name EBT, with this group sometimes being collectively referred to as STL EBT. Both sets are closely linked up and often unite as one, as seen in an old clip where K.I. claims she's from STL but is posted up on EBT.
I'm from STL, but I be posted on EBT, bitch.
The street politics in Chicago's South Side are both incredibly complicated, with beefs and alliances being handed down from generation to generation, as the Black Disciples and Gangster Disciples had a deadly feud that goes back decades. But also, the beef in modern day Chicago in many ways is very simple, as if you're from O-Block or 64th, you'd likely just hate anybody from STL EBT or 63rd, and simply being from the wrong street could ultimately have you marked for death if you run into the opposition. And vice versa, if you catch one of your enemies, you're playing the deadly game of gang violence in Chicago, you may well be forced to kill or be killed in a split second. And sadly, KI was deep into this dynamic and ultimately found herself in the same lifestyle that likely resulted in her father's murder, repeating the same family cycle. Jakyra's mother Chantel even mentions how she would attempt to get KI locked up or have her sent to mental institutions, hoping to put a stop to her behavior and gangster tendencies, but she would explain that the system can only do so much. When she reached the age of 14, KI's mother believed that she was too far gone and essentially left it in the Lord's hands. At just age 14, her own mother had given up hope for Jakyra due to the lifestyle choices she was making at the time.
12, so I used to do stuff like try and get her locked up, take her down to Heart Grove mental institution, keep her for 30 days, try and do stuff like that, Then it kind of got to the point, because the system only can help you so much if they haven't actually done nothing. So kind of like at, say like 14, 15, it kind of started getting real rowdy type, like, where, I ain't gonna say I let her go, but I just kind of stayed prayed up and kind of put it in the Lord's hand. But at the same time, she was a child that was coming home every night, so I would talk to her, mention like, hey, this going on in the streets, this, that, and the other, and when she got to about that age, I want to say like 15-ish or so, that's when she got that I don't give a attitude.
At such an impressionable age, for a young girl to be surrounded by pretty much all male gang members, this would obviously have a massive impact on Jakyra's self-image, even potentially spawning issues with her gender identity and sexual orientation. Perhaps she was trying to find a new way to fit in with the male-dominated gang lifestyle she'd found herself in. As her mother explains in one interview, KI actually begun dressing like a boy and had started dating females. This is something her mother didn't necessarily agree with, but ultimately chose to accept it out of love for her child.
When she was, dressed like a boy, put on, or whatever, or start messing with females, I was like, oh, okay, so you trying to go this route, I ain't knock her, for nothing she did. I ain't condone none of it neither. But if your child come to you and say,
yo, so she turned gay to fit in, like, that shit, right? Because if she wasn't fucking with females before the shit, like, how could you get aroused to a woman, like, if you're just trying to fit in, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even know, gang.
Hey, I want to be this or that, you still gonna love that child.
It be what it be.
You gonna try and guide them the right way, but you still gonna love them no matter what they turn out to be.
In fact, it would seem like over the course of her life, KI was bisexual and actually dated both male and females. KI actually had a very interesting love life. When assessing her social media presence, we can see that she was romantically involved with several notable gang members. Somehow, KI seemed to have been associated with some of the most popular gangs and gangsters in Chicago, either through alleged murders, friendships, or even as a love interest. Interestingly, members from both sides of the war. She would even date Modell McCambry when she was around 13 years old. Modell was a member of STL, famously gunned down by King Von, which is an eerie signal of foreshadowing considering what would happen years later. But in June 2010, Modell made several posts detailing his breakup from Jakyra, explaining how he was so heartbroken over the situation, even claiming that Jakyra was his everything and calling her his potential wife. Jakyra would also date another member from STL called Tuka, who she was very close with, which we'll get into a little bit later. But interestingly enough, KI also dated a known shooter from the other side, McAdoo from 600, who was actually very close to O-Block, and STL would have definitely considered him and 600 mortal enemies. Pictures of the two would surface together online, with Mac and KI appearing together and posing for the camera like a couple. Then, just a few years later, McAdoo would end up being considered one of the deadliest members from that very gang 600 that rivals KI's. Now, you can go and check out my 6-hour video on his gang 600 if you want to learn the whole story. But anyway, nothing more can really be found about that relationship. But what it does show is that before being involved in a deadly street war, these so-called shooters were once just innocent kids having fun and going about their lives. Sadly, in just a few years, street politics would make them mortal enemies. These once partners would likely try and kill each other anytime they had the chance. Now, KI's story is really a one-of-a-kind considering her gender. Being a so-called shooter as a female has spawned many debates online, specifically in the r/Chiracology subreddit, where users were absolutely dumbfounded at the prospect of a female gangster. But many comments seem to agree that KI was different from the average female gangster. The Chicago Sun-Times actually posted an article on KI after her story rose to fame in the mid-2010s. In the article, they actually discussed the unusual role that KI played in the STL sets, as it's not unheard of for females to be involved in street gangs, often carrying out tasks like hiding weapons, setting up rivals, maybe even being an accomplice in planning murders, but KI was different. By all accounts, she was a certified shooter for the gang, putting herself in the firing line and even allegedly committing first-hand murders on their opposition. Jakyra was given the street name KI as an abbreviation of her government name, but she was also given the nickname Lil Snoop due to her likeness in appearance and temperament to the female hitter in HBO's series The Wire. No doubt her tough persona and deadliness in the streets likely convinced many people she was indeed a real-life Snoop. By being the only female in her clique, it's likely that KI would go even harder with her antics, almost to prove a point that she should be considered as cold-blooded as any other member, regardless of her gender. KI was 10 toes deep in these gang feuds, and during a short stint of activity, she would suffer many losses of her close friends, which led her on a spree of revenge and hatred against STL's rivals.
R.I.P. Tuka, man.
KI was very close with an STL member named Sean Dale Gregory, aka Tuka. Allegedly, KI was even with Tuka on the day that he died, January the 12th, 2011. Tuka was standing at the bus stop near the corner of St. Lawrence Avenue and 63rd Street around 6:45 p.m. Police would say that a man approached Tuka and two friends, asking them when the bus was coming. He then moved behind the bus shelter and shot Tuka once. Tuka would stagger to a nearby trash can, where he was then shot 3 more times and left dead at the scene, losing his life at the young age of 15 years old. According to KI's older brother, FBG Butter, both siblings considered Tuka as a best friend. KI was there and witnessed the shooting happen, with her just being 14 years old at the time. Butter claims that KI knew an O-Block member named O.D. Perry was the one responsible for the murder.
I ain't related to us for real, but you know, that's our brother, gang.
Okay, so did she see Tuka get killed?
Yeah, her look, no, her look, it was her G.I. Joe. That's why I knew exactly who killed Tuka right away, because it was so many people out there walked up and only killed Tuka, only shot Tuka.
Right, he was at a bus stop.
Yeah, he's at the bus stop. They on a bus stop 6 deep.
With Butter further going on to say that Tuka was killed following a fight between the two at a high school, where Tuka had apparently choked O.D. Perry against a locker, causing O.D. to later find him and kill him.
Over a fight. They say O.D. and Tuka had a fight earlier that day at school. They both was going to win their feelings. Tuka's supposed to choke O.D. up, choked him to the locker, right? They both on the wrestling team type. With Tuka was on the wrestling team, I think O.D. was supposed to be hooping for the P. They say folks supposed to choke him up because Roro from TYMB was going there too. And he came back later that day and killed Tuka. Tuka literally died later that day after the fight. That's why this is like, it wasn't hard to put the pieces together.
Tuka's death was a massive loss for STL, as he was beloved by his gang brethren, and in Tuka's honor, STL would rename their area and their gang Tukaville. People who knew Tuka would oddly start saying that they were smoking on Tuka, which these days is a sign of disrespect to dead odds. However, back then, this would have originally been seen as a sign of respect, similar to pouring out liquor for a dead loved one. Jakyra's Twitter still has posts to this day saying that she's smoking on Tuka in his memory. This trend was started by Tupac and his crew the Outlaws after a song called Black Jesus, where Pac rapped, "We died clutching glasses, filled with liquor, bombastic, cremated, last wishes, my boys smoke my ashes." The Outlaws would apparently take his request seriously and would indeed smoke Tupac's ashes after his death at a memorial for him in 1996.
Giving them our own, farewell, and that night, I forgot which one of us came up with it. They had his ashes and
I came up with that. If you listen to Black Jesus, he said, "Last wishes, smoke my ashes."
No doubt.
You know what I mean? So that was a request. You know what I mean, that he had. Now, how serious he was about it, we took the serious.
Bro, yo, like, what, like, how crazy is that, like, for your body type shit? Like, how fucked up is it to, like, smoke that shit for your body type shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, to smoke, like, a grown man's ashes, bro. You know what I'm saying? I mean, shit is real nigga shit, though. Like, real nigga shit, though. Cause on some real shit, he's respecting what bro was talking about though. So I mean, shit, like to each his own type shit. You feel me?
Now, after Tuka's death, KI could be seen wearing t-shirts that read "R.I.P. Tuka," and although the death of Tuka was a major hit to STL, they chose not to let this slide, as his death was being terribly mocked by rivals who would actually repost a picture of Tuka laying in a casket, writing disrespectful captions on it and posting it on social media. The STL gang believed that O.D. Perry from Wick City, later renamed O-Block, was responsible for killing Tuka, so 8 months later, they would allegedly get their payback. At around 11:35 p.m. on August the 10th, 2011, the supposed shooter of Tuka, 20-year-old O.D. Perry, was in the Parkway Gardens neighborhood at 64th Street and King Drive. An assailant would open fire at O.D. Perry, hitting him once in the neck, and he would later be pronounced dead at hospital. It was known that the killing was indeed revenge for the death of Tuka, and it would even take place on what would have been Tuka's 16th birthday, and on the very same night that FBG members were filming the video FBG Duck's song Freestyle, where KI can actually be seen stood right next to Duck in the video. Now, STL must have been in high spirits after filming the video and clearly felt bloodthirsty enough to murder an O-Block member right near Parkway Garden. Just like how Tuka's death would rename STL Tukaville, in OD's memory, the Wick City Black Disciples would rename Parkway Gardens as O-Block, a block that Chief Keef and King Von would later immortalize in their music. O.D. Perry, just like Tuka, was beloved in Parkway Gardens, and his name has now gone on to be associated with the most popular gang in drill history. Judging by the images available of OD, he was definitely a major player in the gang who kept several guns, one of these being his notorious Magnum revolver. Now, while it's never been definitively proven who killed O.D. Perry, at the time, the word on the street was that this murder was indeed the work of KI herself. Curiously, she had begun posing with a similar revolver that OD was known to carry after his death, which spawned rumours that it was KI who actually took the revolver after killing OD, carried it around as a badge of honour. These rumours have apparently been spawned from people like Lil J, who apparently shared the following image along with a caption, "Gang, shout out to them twins who made O-Block, #seriously," referring to KI and her older brother FBG Butter, with this also being supported by Marvel FBG Wooski Williams, who also made a tweet indicating that KI and Butter were indeed the twins that made the O, even specifically atting them. In 2024, FBG Butter appeared on Vlad TV and even admitted that it was indeed KI who killed O.D. Perry. He would also claim that the murder is on camera and people have seen the footage.
Well, the story goes that she killed someone at 14 as revenge over Tuka. That's what they say.
Man, OD got it black.
Right, well, O.D. Perry got killed at one point.
Sheroid,
and they're saying that
Batum, Junior.
They're saying that she was the shooter. That's the rumor.
I mean, it's footage. It's a video
of O.D. Perry getting killed.
Yeah.
Now, a later Freedom of Information request did reveal that Rodney Boss Trail Stewart and jakyra KI Barnes were indeed suspected as offenders in this murder, but the footage has never been released. This report does add serious weight to the claims that KI may well have killed O.D. Perry, with this actually coming after an informant named them as the shooters in 2016. But a lot of people have still debated this and have suggested that it indeed was not KI that killed O.D. Perry, but for me to break all of that down, it would just, that's a whole other video. Interestingly though, around this time, Chief Keef from O-Block's career would start taking off. He would go on to flip the phrase smoking on Tuka in his songs to be used in a more mocking tone to disrespect his rivals in Tukaville, as well as posting tweets and making songs that diss Tuka, like his song John Madden from all the way back in October 2011, where he raps, "F a Tuka gang, I let this Ruger bang." This would single-handedly birth the trend of smoking dead ops, as well as further igniting the feud between STL EBT and O-Block. But just 3 months later, the war would intensify and STL would lose yet another one of their members to gunfire, once again, someone who was extremely close to KI. Tutu, real name Carlton Archer, is a member from Jaro City, which is a gang closely affiliated with STL. Tutu and KI were very close and thought to have been romantically involved with one another. Once again, someone who KI held close to her heart would ultimately end up losing their life to the streets. On the night of the 10th of November, Tutu was found dead in an alley on the 6200 block of South Eberhard Avenue with multiple gunshot wounds. After his death, Tutu would become a legend in his hood and the drill culture, and his fans have often mourned his death on social media. FBG Duck would take to Facebook that very same night, implying that he intended to avenge Tutu's death, regardless of being on house arrest. KI also shared her heartbreak, claiming to have read Tutu's obituary every night before going to sleep. Due to the social media activity of their rivals, it's believed that O-Block's close ally, the Crew 600, were responsible for this murder, specifically one member called C-Day. His Twitter activity after the murder shows the extent that he would go to mock Jaro City and seemingly admit responsibility for the shooting, tweeting over a year after the murder that he would dig up Tutu and re-kill him. And the same day as this tweet, C-Day would also post claiming that he enjoys killing so much, comparing it to the feeling of sex. Many theorize that his Twitter name, Tutu Shots, is in fact a play on words referring to C-Day having killed Tutu. But the disrespect went even further beyond music or tweets, as it's alleged that 600 members would even shoot up Tutu's funeral, with FBG Butter explaining the story behind the funeral shooting in an interview with Corporate Cartel Media, where he confirmed that this indeed happened, even claiming that Jaro members got locked into the church by the authorities who were trying to take their guns.
Look, you gotta think like this, right? Tutu funeral was on their shit, right? At Pastor Brooks Church, right? At Blue at. It was a shootout, right?
At the funeral?
At the funeral. It got wild on their way going to the funeral. bumped heads, but got wild with you know, right? Pastor Brooks let the police barricade us in his church and asked us for our guns.
Just like Tuka and OD, Tutu's death was a major loss for Gyro City, and it spawned the new name, Tutu Gang. One of Jakyra's very first tweets would be her repping Tutu Gang. But it was clear after Tutu's death that this incident had affected KI in a major way, as she even had Carlton Tutu Archer's nickname tattooed onto her arms, with another nickname for him being Carlton Cashout. But strangely, although KI and Tutu were said to have been romantically involved, it appeared that KI actually begun dating Tutu's sister after his death. A video surfaced online where KI can actually be seen in the orange flirting with Tutu's sister. Ultimately, KI was left heartbroken once again after Tutu died, and once again her crew would seek revenge. Just 3 months later, it would appear they got what they were looking for, as another member of O Block would be murdered, and KI would be a prime suspect after bragging about the hit to the whole world.
Sheroid.
Sheroid was the brother of famed FBG duck shooter C Murder. At 6:47 PM on February the 6th, 2012, Sheroid Liggins of O Block was discovered with a gunshot wound to the head at the 6400 block of South King Drive, just outside of Parkway Gardens, aka O Block. He was in the hospital fighting for his life for around 4 days when he was pronounced dead on February the 20th, 2012 at Stroger Hospital. Nobody was caught for this crime, but KI made some incriminating tweets suggesting that Boss Trail of Tukaville was responsible. During this time, she began engaging in massive tirades to anger her ops, tweeting things such as BT made Sheroid squad, BT doing hits on the wick, hit Sheroid in his neck, and mentioning a red beam knocking Sheroid off the map, with the aforementioned red beam actually being featured in a music video with Lil J and FBG Duck dissing Chief Keef, a track titled Critical that was released just months after this murder happened. The title of the song possibly being a reference to how Sheroid was in critical condition for some time before he actually passed away. Clearly surrounded by death at this time, KI would also tweet about her dead ex-boyfriend and friend, Carlton Tutu Archer, saying that she would read his obituary every night before sleep. Boss Trail would also once tweet that he bet O Block remembers that red beam, which is pretty crazy considering that he is indeed the person alleged to have killed Sheroid with a gun that had a red beam on it from all the way across the street that was shown off in that critical music video. Now, another police document was released years after this case, with 4 offenders actually being reported as suspects, but the police eventually landed on the idea that only 2 offenders were involved, with the investigators attempting to identify 2 people with the nicknames of DJ or Day Day and Butter as those responsible for the shooting, with internet detectives saying DJ could be one of Boss Trail's best friends Dutchie, who also went by the name DJ and could be seen in this photo with Boss Trail from 2012, although the police were more focused on someone unrelated to Boss Trail and KI with the initials DJ, apparently named Dayton Johnson. From these documents, Butter also was thought by internet detectives to be KI's older brother FBG Butter, who is indeed known to hang around Boss Trail. Detectives were also told that the shooter was named Tutu, but couldn't identify Tutu either. Now, Tutu coming up is kind of interesting to note because KI's ex, Tutu, was already deceased by the time of this shooting, but it would still make sense for someone to confuse Tutu as the killer, as this murder took place on February the 16th, 2012. Apparently the ballistics from this case actually matched up with another homicide that the police believe was actually done by Carlton Tutu Archer before he died, with that hit apparently being carried out by Tutu along with another one of KI's friends, Rason Lil B Shaw, on the 26th of December 2011. But anyway, despite seemingly getting some momentary revenge, just months later, KI would experience yet another major loss when her close friend, 13-year-old Taekwon Tyler, was killed whilst leaving a party. Taekwon's death, just like Tuka and OD, was massive for Gyro City and even spawned its own break-off set from Gyro City named Taekwon World. KI would change her Twitter handle to the infamous nickname Taekwon Assassin, possibly indicating that she was indeed seeking to assassinate people as revenge for her fallen friend. By now, KI had lost at least 3 close friends, as well as her own father to gun violence. She was ultimately groomed from the tender age of 12, learning the way of the streets, and after these tit-for-tat killings, there was really no going back for her. King Von and KI's first interaction on Twitter was around September the 25th, 2012, with King Von alluding to an incident where he'd apparently beaten up KI on a train. KI would reply that she'd only suffered minor injuries compared to the ops who she'd hit with 40 caliber bullets to the face. KI the next day suggests that she shot up Von or someone he knew the very next day. He then replied, questioning whether KI is a gangster or a bitch, questioning her role in the gang war as she was a female, with her replying, putting it on Tuka's life that she was indeed a gangster. As mentioned previously, KI's struggles with her gender identity was indeed a big challenge to her, and comments like this from Von likely cut deep. 4 days later, King Von would ask KI why she was shouting out her hood as he never saw her when he was searching for ops in the area. And KI would reply saying that Von could die like White White, a friend that Von saw get gunned down and would later rap about on his song called Demon, saying witnessing this murder is what turned Von into a demon. Now this comment would anger Von so much that he threatened to kill KI and said that she better kill him first if she wants to live. Strangely, he then replies to KI claiming that she needs some D, possibly indicating that he wanted to sleep with her, and again, prodding her with a personal jab that struck right at the heart of her sexuality. Judging by Von's personality and antics in his life, it's possible that he actually admired Ki and respected her killer reputation. But, on the other hand, Von was always a massive troll. Now, Ki would sternly reply to him saying F you, but maybe Von wasn't trolling. That same day, Ki asked her followers to retweet if they think she looks good, and Von retweeted it. The next month, Ki would make a tweet claiming that she had beaten up Lil Scud from O Block, and she says that someone should let Von know that she was tough and wasn't someone he should be messing with. King Von would respond to this, saying that he thought she was tough and that he actually liked her. Although after hitting on Ki, Von doubted that she really beat his friend up, which prompted Ki to say that when she beat up Lil Scud, he didn't even claim his hood O Block when she pressed him. King Von's sister Kayla B then chimed in on the conversation, claiming to have been present during the fight, and she says that it was her that told Scud not to say where he was from to not further instigate any violence in the situation. She then said that Ki didn't beat him up, but also somewhat attempted to neutralize the situation by saying that everybody knew Ki wasn't a lame nor someone to be messed with Ki calling Scud a bitch and making fun of him for not even punching her back. All of this would lead King Von to really see just how wild Ki could be, and causing him to say,
bro, if a nigga was raised not to hit a female, it's like, yo, I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie. We're gonna watch this video, and I'm not gonna lie. I'ma just
say that he thought he was falling in love with her, with Ki responding simply, gay ass. Now, I know this seems like a joke, but this is actually quite interesting, because if Ki is calling Von gay for liking her, perhaps this is a sign that at this point, Ki was actually identifying as a man, or perhaps Von's comments about finding her attractive really cut Ki deep, as perhaps she felt that she had to abandon her feminine identity to fit in with her gang members. But it's also possible that beneath this facade, Ki did long to be wanted by someone like Von, who was considered to be one of the more handsome members of the opposing gang. That's a big no diddy on that one. But anyway, judging by Von's reply, it's safe to assume that he was indeed trolling at this point, as he would go on to call her wifey, later promising to treat her right. Now, Ki seemed to actually get a kick at the concept of hooking up with someone from the opposition's hood, and just tweeted LMAO at this wild turn of events. Now, Von would use this instance to start regularly referring to Ki as his wifey and getting playful responses from Ki as tweets went by, with Von also saying that he has Ki on his mind a lot, and that he even told his sister that he eventually wanted to marry her. Many years later, someone on the anonymous image messaging board 4chan claimed to have hacked Ki's private DMs on Twitter, and if you line it up with this timeline of events, it seems that Von really did ask Ki if she wanted to hook up in the private DMs, although it's pretty clear that Ki would have every reason to be paranoid about Von's true intentions, with Ki asking Von straight up if he wanted to kill her, and Von letting Ki know that there were in fact people from his area that did want her dead, but he wouldn't do that to her because he thought she was cool as hell. Von then asked her if she would ever stop gangbanging, to which she replied never. She then asked,
I ain't gonna lie, if he keeps doing this shit, bro, I'ma just stop the video, bro. And just call it a day, my nigga. Hell no, this little shit. Said y'all in the wick plotting on me. Said y'all gonna kill me. On BD, I ain't gonna lie, motherfuckers. It's on that, but I didn't even think I can. What? You seem cool as hell. When you gonna stop game making? Man, ain't no goofy when you stop. When you gonna stop game banging? Damn, bro. I got no IQ, my nigga. Fuck you talking about? Other man, yo, on BD, I ain't tryna go on you. I'm just asking, and I don't even know. I probably just. Alright, bro. Yo, with that being said, bro, I'ma just end stream, gang. Real shit, bro. Y'all follow the IG, follow the YouTube, follow my TikTok, all that shit. Bro, cooked. Alright. Follow my IG, my TikTok, subscribe to my YouTube, and I'm gone.